Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. So today I wanted to go ahead and talk about a few things, clarify some notions that we see that people say and in many cases don't have any evidence for. The thing about it is you can say whatever you want, be it something that may be true, but at least one of the best things that you can do is try to, back it up with evidence in some cases. And then the second thing I'm going to address in this video is I'm going to talk about, if Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be a worthy competitor for the Division 2's audience. And, by the time I come to my conclusion, I guess you can respond in the comment section. So take some time to listen to the video from beginning to end so that you can, if you have a counter argument, you can basically, figure out my entire stance on the matter. So I've seen the sentiment with people saying things like the developers knew about the bugs in the game and refused to fix it and all that stuff. But, I want to say that may be a true statement, but the thing is many people don't have any evidence. In fact, what we may have actually is evidence to the contrary to these claims that people are making. A conversation ensued on Twitter regarding some of the PTS, and Yannick was, addressing a few things about the patch notes and saying that the PTS is designed for people to be able to test and see things and go in. Well, somebody was having a problem on this stance and was asking, some really serious questions to Yannick. But the conversation boiled down to something that he said that I want to highlight in this video. The person said I need something about testing. Do you not have testers who understand the game? And Yannick said, we do. You have no idea how many broken things never actually make it to the game thanks to our QC teams. But it doesn't hurt to have an extra wave of tests and feedback from those who will actually use this gear. Now, many people say things like Massive doesn't fix their game and all that, but the truth is, Massive actually does, test their game. Sorry, is what they say. Massive does never test their game, and I've probably said that before. In my terms, I mean they don't test their game enough. Because if you go to their website, they actually have job openings for testers, all over the place. I mean, literally, they're always hiring testers. And so you can actually, apply to be a tester. I don't know what they pay. Maybe you don't want to do it or whatever it is. But if you want to work in the games industry and test out these games and have an understanding that the division has provided you, you can actually go do that. And so I think the evidence is that there are so many things that they test, but at the end of the day, there are things that are out of their hands that they can't see when the game launches or when a patch launches. Yannick again even mentioned this sentiment on a Kotaku article saying, we knew, something along the lines of, we knew that the game, when it came out, people were probably going to have issues about it over down the road. But, just saying that we kind of knew that people would still have problems in the game and people still have, concerns and issues that arise. But that being said, he was saying it at this point of our game is really complex. When it comes out, there's probably going to be stuff that we've missed. Now, could they do a better job in testing? Oh, yes. I mean, the thing about responsibility is you have to have ownership for your game. And I think for the most part, many of the developers have shown this ownership. Bruce was on the state of the game and apologized that he made some, he and the team that works on some of the things may have made some mistakes. But I don't think it was enough for the community. Some people wanted him to grovel and lay down on the floor and beg and plead, African style. I'm from West Africa. When people go and, in Nigeria, Yoruba culture, when people go to marry a bride, the groom lays on the ground with all his friends begging for the bride. I think that's what a lot of people kind of wanted. But, this is Western culture. That's not going to happen. And so I wanted to address that and say, dispel that notion, look forward. If you want the game to be better, then do what it takes to, help the game be better. It's the division. It's the way the game has been. We have, in conjunction with the developers, helped put the game on a better place. It's a very complex game. Other games that you may cite as more balanced than the division are actually not as complex as the division. If you have a game that is as complex as the division, that is more balanced than the division, please let me know in the comment section. I really want to check this game out, okay? Now, that being said, let's move on to the second side of the discussion, which is Cyberpunk 2077 is going to, steal the whole Division community. It's going to provide a lot of, gameplay, and people are going to leave the Division 2 for Cyberpunk 2077. Now, there are two factors involved, and the first factor is, if Cyberpunk 2077 is going to offer what the Division offers, that's number one. And two, if Tom Clancy's The Division's developers actually have a plan to be able to keep their player base via content that they have in mind. And the two factors are going to weigh in on this. And so even though I can, make my conclusion, I still have to say they will be dependent on these two factors. So first of all, the question whether Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be able to provide what the Division provides and, actually attract the audience. So first of all, what does the Division 2 even provide? First of all, Division 2 is a third-person shooter. This is a big clause for a lot of gamers. If a gamer is playing Tom Clancy's The Division, they most likely enjoy third-person shooters. In fact, many gamers will tell you that they exclusively enjoy third-person games, and first-person games are not their game. So we already have a segment of the Division 2's community that will probably just be checking out Cyberpunk 2077 and not immersing themselves in it because it is a first-person shooter. No problem with first-person shooters. There are some first-person shooters that I've enjoyed, that I loved. After playing them, I played Far Cry 4, one of my most favorite games. I played Metro Exodus. Also on that, if you look at my top 5 games, those 2 games will probably land there. But then in my top 5 games, there are 3 third-person games that are actually there. So if you think about it, I prefer third-person games. Even though I'll be checking out Cyberpunk 2077 and on all that, it would have to offer a little bit more to actually bump itself into my first 5 games. And that's basically what I don't necessarily know just yet. There will be RPG elements, there'll be bad guys, there'll be leveling up, there'll be progression, there'll be, all kinds of loot and gear. From all the stuff that they've shown, it does provide a huge, big offering. But then there's also the part of the Division 2 that is providing a lot of intricacy, detail, and complexity. Is Cyberpunk 2077 going to be that complex? Are we going to have to deal with bleed, burn, all this kind of damage stuff? Are we going to have to deal with intricate systems? Because they've shown some stuff about your character and being able to kind of wire your character to be able to carry out different special tasks and all this stuff in the RPG elements. If it's that complex, then I think, yes, it's going to provide something for players to be able to deal with. But if it doesn't provide these two things, then it's going to be really rough to think that Cyberpunk 2077 can actually move a huge portion of the Division community. And then there's a side of community multiplayer and co-op that the Division has that we don't really know if Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be launching with on day one. The developers for Cyberpunk 2077 at CD Projekt Red talked about they do plan on bringing some multiplayer stuff down the road, and this was when they were talking about how they wanted to monetize their game and talking about how the system was going to be fair. As many of you know, I give CD Projekt Red some of the biggest props that I can all over the internet. If you go watch my videos from 2018, I've been talking about the studio, in fact, I made a video talking about how they're going to rule the gaming world. It's not even a question of when. It's just of if. It's a question of when, because they seem to put a lot of quality and time and a lot of polishing into their game, that if Ubisoft even did just as much, I think Ubisoft would probably be on par with them, because Ubisoft has exciting IPs, has exciting ideas that they put out, but it just seems like broken games plagues the company. I don't know why. Maybe it's their engine, maybe there's something there that just doesn't really get dealt with before being put out. But we've had new leadership structure at Ubisoft since Ghost Recon Breakpoint bombed, so hopefully we'll be seeing more quality. And then the other side is, do the developers for the Division, Massive, do they have any content plans to be able to keep their player base? Now, the answer to that is sort of kind of yes. Just recently, Chris Gansler, one of the community developers, confirmed some leaks about upcoming replayable content. Now, this is something big, because as much as the community had said, oh, we want all this content, a lot of people did lose their patience and leave. The truth is, you cannot expect the content schedule that this community actually demands to be realistic. Think about it. We got Warlords of New York in March, and it's April, May now, and upcoming is going to be a raid. So that's content that was actually delayed. But the reason for it being delayed, according to the Windmill, was that the raid kind of was a sucky thing. It wasn't that good. It needed to be redesigned. According to people who said some of the ETF members had actually taken a look at it or whatever and said this was not a good design for the content. So they took it back into the drawing board, and they've been fluffing it up and doing what they needed to do. So we're going to get that raid drop show up. It's free. And then down the road, the replayable content is going to be for PvE, which is a huge portion of the player base. And even PvP right now, I think what they might even eventually do is kind of pair up that PvP side of things with the replayable PvE content to be able to appeal to the PvP community. I don't know if this is for sure, but I think this is a wise choice for them to do to be able to hang on to their player base and even sell another DLC that will incentivize players to actually pay for it. They're doing some really cool things with their patch notes, making players stronger, buffing the player base up. And this is something that a lot of people have said, oh, they don't want to give players the advantage. When people say that, I'm like, have you looked at the patch notes from the past few days? So I know my stance and my slant for the Division is a little biased. Don't get me wrong, I do want to cover, all kinds of other fun games, and I already am. Many people don't really know. I'm going to do a shameless plug. I have a second YouTube channel that I actually do cover all this stuff. In fact, some of you here in the community helped push that channel to where it is right now, where it's actually starting to gain some traction. So I am trying to diversify as well, to cover the content, and I'm playing other games as well when I take a break from the Division. If I'm not testing something in the PTS, I've been playing another Ubisoft game that is providing a lot of fun and a lot of engagement. So the question if Cyberpunk 2077 is going to compete with the Division game, I think that's a stretch, because even Destiny, that is a much more closer relative, still has to fight with, players, not to talk more of Cyberpunk 2077. I think what we're going to see is we're going to see the regular trend. Cyberpunk 2077 is going to get a spike in players. I know people who have pre-ordered, personally, actually, like friends that I shake their hands, basically get to see them, weekly, that have pre-ordered the game and are ready to play it. But the Division community, when they're taking a break from Cyberpunk 2077, because I see that game as a 40, 50, 60, 70 hour experience. If there's co-op and if there's, community stuff, then it can go further than that. But people will probably still come back to the Division game from time to time. There'll be people who dedicatedly play the Division game while waiting for Cyberpunk 2077 to maybe, drop down in price a little bit. But the competition is stiff, man. There are a lot of other gaming companies that are going to be vying for player dollars. I think if he had come out in April, it would have been in a much better position, than any other game right now. But they're going to be going into that holiday season and competing. Massive, on the other hand, they've already sold as much base copies as they can. So all they need to do is kind of get that player base to go back and dust off their game and actually play it. It's much less difficult than actually shipping a new IP, in my opinion. Anyways, these are my thoughts. I thought I'd just share them with you guys. There's so much going on in the community right now, and it's nice to have these conversations. It's nice to, put these things in perspective, just so that people can understand that, as much as the Division goes through its trials, it is a very resilient game. It is a complex game, and having been someone who's played it, who's made content around it, who's been studying the community's reactions, I have to say that, this game is so complicated and complex, and there's no easy route to having this game become successful. That's what I've noticed. If anybody's looking for an easy way, then another game might better serve them. Thank you so much for your time and audience. I appreciate you guys so much. You guys have been there for me. We're heading to 30,000 subscribers. I don't know what to say other than thank you. I mean, I'm really excited. I'm really humbled. Because what does a guy like me know, and why are you guys even here? It's just because you guys just want to support me, and you guys have been, many of you have been here since day one. Come on, guys, October 2016, and you guys have been there, still hitting the like button. Even if you're not playing the Division, you still show up and, you still support. I do appreciate you guys so much. Peace.